What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're building off everything that we learned last week and getting more into understanding when and how to slate as a second AC. So last week, we went over a couple things detailing information that should be on the slate and why it's important to have as much information on there as possible. And we also broke down in detail understanding the importance of soft sticks, what it is and how to do it and when to do it. So in today, we're going to build off of those fundamentals and get a little more into when to slate, how to slate, and different types of ways to actually slate. So yeah, let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. All right, so when it comes to actually slating as a second AC, their variation or the type of way you go about actually slating varies depending on the type of project that you're working on. So let's say you're on a narrative project, the way you slate there would be different from how you slate on a documentary project where you're shooting and filming interviews. So when it comes to slating for narrative projects, you can either slate at two different durations during a scene. Typically, that's either a head slate, which is at the beginning of a scene, or a tail slate, which is at the conclusion of a scene. When it comes to slating for a head slate, it's typically the traditional form that we all see in movies or shows, or when we go to Google, you typically see the slate presented and your second AC calls out the scene in the take and then presumes to actually clap the clapperboard. Now, that's kind of the most simplest way. The only time when you'll do anything more or extra is if there are multiple camera angles and you want to detail what camera you're actually slating to. So let's say I'm the second AC for A camera and we have a B cam operator. When I go to slate, I would want to say A marker and then presume to clap the clapperboard, just so that in post the editor knows that that first clapperboard was for A camera specifically and not B camera. So yeah, then that's that. And then our B cam second AC would essentially do the same thing, but detail that is B cam marker or B marker. So yeah, that's kind of that. There are situations where if you are shooting on multiple cameras, you can slate for both cameras simultaneously, and this is typically called a common marker. So anytime we're doing this on a narrative project, it's the same steps as calling out your scene and your take, but this time instead of signifying each camera individually, you'll just say common markers, so that way the editor knows that there will only be one sound or clapper for both of those cameras. So for example, let's say we're on scene 237, 237A, take one, common mark, and then you'll presume to clap the clapperboard. In scenarios where you're shooting documentaries, typically there aren't really necessarily scenes. More than likely it's a lot of B-roll or interviews, but typically whoever the director is or the co-producers or producer, whoever, typically may request that we slate particular scenes or interviews a certain type of way, but that can be communicated with them during set. But general rule of thumb, if it's an interview, just literally write down whoever the interviewee's name is, and that's kind of good to go. So let's say we're interviewing Killer Mike. So that's a good example. Shout out to Killer Mike, just won 3 Grammys last night. But yeah, so let's say we're interviewing Killer Mike and I'm going up to slate. It would be Killer Mike interview, take one. So yeah, interviews, very, very smooth, very, very easy. Not too much about it, but typically when you're doing features or narrative projects, that's kind of when you get into the nitty gritty of actually knowing how to slate. So to build on that, the second tip or knowing when to slate is understanding tail slate. So as we mentioned in our last video, there are times where insert cards come in, or our talent is ready to go, and our director is just calling out, go ahead and action and run it, and we have to hurry up and actually start rolling without the ability to go ahead and tail Slate, or to go ahead and head Slate, which allows us to, or causes us to actually tail Slate. A proper example of this would be, so we call in for tail Slate, so we're here with it, and remember we want to try to fill the frame. So we're here, this will be in focus, you flip the slate over, boom. And that's how you actually go about tail slating. The next type of slate that is very important is understanding MOS. Now, MOS is typically used when we are shooting at a high frame rate. So anything that's higher than 24 frames a second, or 23.98 or whatever. And there's basically no audio. So in the event we're filming and there's no type of audio, we'll be filming MOS. Now, the way of showing MOS is that when you go to actually present the slate to the frame of the camera, you want to make sure that you put your fingers through the clapperboard so that the editor in post knows that there's no audio on this. Like, your fingers through the clapper is the sign or signal that this scene is being shot without the emission of sound, or without sound. So there's no syncing of that audio for that particular take. All right, so there you have it. Those are your 4 most common ways of slating and when to slate. If you guys can get those down pat and understand those, you'll be the best second AC when it's your time to be on set. So yeah, like always, if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit that like button, and if you aren't already, please consider subscribing to the channel with post notifications on, because one, it encourages me to continue to put out these videos, but also too, it helps these videos get out to a larger audience so that we all may continue to grow and sharpen our skill sets in this industry that we call filmmaking. So yeah, until next time, peace.